going on? It's Mopar Man here, as usual. Today I'm working on the modification on the timing chain cover for the Slant6. Putting the built-in adjuster to deal with the camshaft wanting to move forward, back and forth, but mainly forward under load, whatnot, while the engine's running. It's basically to take this adjuster's basically to take the slack out from it, the cam wanting to go back and forth. Since they don't have a bump stop built in like the Chevys do, the little tab, the nylon tab or whatever you want to call it on the front of the timing cover, or the not the cover but the timing chain sprocket for the camshaft. But anyway, let me just show you what I'm doing here. So basically, last time, let's see if we focus. As you can see, I took this bolt, took it down, bolted it down to the drill press, the little table that's built into the drill press, and I bolted it down so it wouldn't move. And I put this little perfectly round little cup shape in the middle of the bolt head. I didn't go too deep to make it weak, but let me sit down here for a minute. Anyway, so the problem is this cam wants to move back and forth. Okay, so to fix that, you just take a what is it? An old used adjuster on a Slant6 rocker arm, and you take, I'll show you here, take a grade 8 flat washer. This one's probably I don't know, ½ an inch or a little more than that on the outer diameter. The inner diameter is just a little bit bigger, or wider I should say, than the outer diameter of the adjuster. And then I went and got a I can't remember the proper name. I got the wrappers around here somewhere. Here. I used one grade 8 fine thread hex nut, 3/8-24. This is the number at Menards for the nut. Anyway, and then it's got that anti-rust coating on it. And then the others were part number 80-36-3, also 3/8-24 fine thread, and that was a okay, there it is, hex jam nut fine thread. So I got 2 jam nuts. I don't think I used the other one, but anyway, here's the jam nut on the top, and then we flip this over, and there is the I found a smaller grade 8 washer that's half the width of the one on the outside, which if you use a wider one where these triangular pieces come in and curve, the washer sits on there, and one of them is not, one of these corners is not wide enough like the others, and it causes the washer to kind of sit at an angle, so it's not perfectly flat. So this little washer sits, it's just narrow enough that it sits perfectly between the two in the little flat spot here. And then the inner diameter of that washer is just barely big enough to where you actually have to kind of screw it down over the adjuster nut. And then this is just a regular grade 8 fine thread bolt. And then what I had to do is, before I adjusted all this, I had to basically put this on And as you can see, I widened the dowel hole just a little bit wider than it's like it said to in the book. And then that allows for when you put your harmonic balancer on, it allows enough slack to properly adjust the seal around the harmonic balancer so it's not out of whack and it's perfectly round once you install the cover. Anyway, you gotta, what I did was, in order to make a mark on the back side of this to get the proper position, you can use a foam earplug, or an orange or yellow foam earplug, and if you take some super glue and make sure it's perfectly centered on this bolt head right here, do that, and then you take, I used a paint contractor's paint marker, paint pen, whatever you want to call them, and I dabbed the end of the deal, and then I went ahead and set timing cover on, and it made a perfect, it is just long enough to where it pressed up against the timing chain cover and marked the location where I had to use my drill press to drill the hole out. Anyway, another thing too is I made the hole a little bit wider than the adjuster nut here, the rocker arm adjuster, and that way once I put it on, it has enough room, a little bit of slack to make sure it's right, it's adjusted inside that. And what I did was I toyed with the adjustments, just using a what was it, 9/16 and a brake bleeder wrench, and basically I just slowly adjusted it to where, and I didn't use a gasket. I adjusted the lash to where the timing cover is sitting perfectly flat on the engine, and this adjuster here is just touching the inside of that hole, that the partial hole that I drilled, that cup. And then just to make sure to see where it was lined up, I went ahead and put some paint, same paint on this, on the top and around, and I gently slid this back on and pressed it down. And as you can see, it made, I had to do a little adjusting to where I got this centered perfectly in there. And then what I did was, once I got that centered, I was real careful to make sure that I took this wrench and then the other one, and I properly adjusted these until they were tight. Make sure they didn't move. And then now what you got to do is, since this is thin sheet metal, you got to make what they call a biscuit. Basically it's just a flat plate that comes in here, and make sure when you do it, you drill a hole that's just the outside diameter of these corners of this nut. And what I'm going to do is, down here where it sits lower, I'm going to weld from the actual cover up to, of course I'm going to rough this up with some sandpaper or whatnot, but I'm going to weld from the cover over the edge of the washer and onto the bolt. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in 4 spots. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that plate in here, and I'm going to spot weld it in 3 spots on each section here. And then I'm going to go ahead and once it slides in there, I'm going to weld that seam up really good. And I'm also going to, well, what I'll do is I'm going to weld this in here real good first, grind it down, make sure it doesn't cause any oil leaks, and then I'm going to put that plate in there and weld that up too. And then once I get that done, I won't have to deal with the messing around with the adjustments. I can just unscrew this anytime I want. I can back this nut off and screw this in and out, and what I'll do is I'll adjust it to where it just turns in and touches after this pan's bolted down, to where it just stops. Back it out just a little bit, tighten it down. I'll use some blue Loctite or whatever, and then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to make sure, I might even put some Teflon tape on these threads too, just to make sure oil doesn't slowly sweat out through the because this adjuster screws on there pretty tight in the threads on that nut. So, but just to make sure anyway, do that and make sure it's locked down and whatnot. And once you put your gasket on, that'll give you just probably 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch more, a little bit more clearance that way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab this right here with a little glob of bearing grease. And then what I'm going to do is I got an oil slinger to put back on this before I put the harmonic balancer on there. And then what I'm going to do is, besides running regular good quality oil like some maybe a little bit of Lucas oil stabilizers or whatever, I'm going to also be running some BG oil additive, the MOA and the RF7. The RF7 and MOA together create a super slick surface and keep everything slippery and lubed in here. All these metal parts, make sure there's little to no wear, and this will definitely get that stuff as well. But anyway, just wanted to show you how far I come along. I'm going to have to start welding on this. And then once I get this video done, I'm going to go ahead and start welding, and then you guys will get to see the finished product. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time.